plaisir de se retrouver dans une soirée qui va débuter par l'humour et terminer tout en musique. Comment vous présenter votre premier humoriste? Eh bien, il s'est produit à Montréal, très connu sur le terrain montréalais. Il a traversé le Canada par les spectacles. Il s'est produit aux États-Unis, a vendu 10 000 copies du spectacle You Never Stop. Mesdames et messieurs, Franco Taddeo. Showtime!
Thank you. Grazie. Merci, Joe, the wonderful Joe. A Montreal Italian Week. Actually, it's no longer that. It's italfest Montreal Institution, Mr. Joe Cacchione. Let's hear it for him. I'm the only one clapping because this is virtual. Oh, let me put the timer on so I know what's going on. By the way, my name, for those of you that don't know, is Franco Taddeo. I am a comic, en français, humoriste, in Italian, village idiot. So those are the three. Je parle les trois langues, none of them well. I'm very excited to be here, actually there on screen with you. They offered me a headset with a mic, but I asked for a mic so at least one hand will not be moving incessantly because, you know, the old joke, how do you make an Italian keep quiet? You tie his hands. You tie his hands. So in my case, it's a stereotype that is very true. Oh, and in terms of my Italian heritage, I come from it honestly. Both my parents, le due genitori, are from Italy, southern Italy, the real Italians, both from Campania. But interestingly enough, my mom is from Caserta, but she grew up in England, Swindon, just south of London, and my dad is from Avellino, but he grew up in Switzerland, in Bern. But so they are Italian once removed. I am Italian twice removed, but with a strong affection and love for our culture. And I love doing these Italian Week galas whenever I get the chance. I haven't done one in a while because I think Josie doesn't love me anymore, but and I always say italfest Montreal, not Settimana Italiana, is where the Italian dolce vita meets the Québécois joie de vivre, and we make beautiful children that love pizza, panini, and poutine. But no ere de Chris, because nobody likes those. We're doing a virtual show, and I know that all the performers would much rather be live, but hopefully next year, on va être live and en direct, especially if we all take the vaccine. I am double vaccinated. I'm very happy about that. But last week I had a electrician come to my house, and I had just gotten the vaccine, so I still had the Band-Aid. It was just showing my muscles. No, I still had the Band-Aid, and he's like, you're vaccinated? I'm like, yeah, both. And he's like, no, he's like, I'm not going to do that. He's like, you don't know what's in it. And it's true. We don't know what's in the vaccine. But it's not our job to know what's in everything. For example, I, Franco Taddeo, don't know what's in gasoline. But I know if I put it in my car, vroom, vroom, it's going to work. I, like most of us, have no idea what's in toothpaste. But brush my teeth, no cavities, minty fresh. Huh? And the thing is, the ironic part is he told me this electrician, and he's like, you know, you don't know what's in it, and you have to be careful what you put in your body. While he was telling me this, I wish I was making this up and there was an audience that could share it with me. He was eating Doritos and drinking a Pepsi. But I have to be careful what I put in my body so no one dies. And I think we always have like this double standard. Like we don't think it could happen to us. And that's one of the reasons people are hesitant to vaccine. They're like, I'm not going to get COVID. And it's not just the vaccine. I remember like last summer, I like to ride a lot. But up until last summer, I never wore a helmet, which was stupid. C'était ridicule. And I ran into a friend of mine. I was going to meet a friend of mine. And he's like, dude, you're not wearing a helmet? He's like, your body is a temple. We have one body. You have to honor it. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I have a wife. I have kids. I have people that love me. Some people that don't like me that much. But anyways, that's not the point. I'm like, I should wear a helmet. I'm like, you're absolutely right. Henceforth, from now on, I'm going to wear a helmet. You're right. Let's go inside. Body's a temple, and he made me realize that. He's like, yeah, you go ahead of me. I'm just going to finish my cigarette. Okay, yeah, my body's a temple, but apparently yours is a cave. One of the hardest things about this pandemic, and one of the reasons we are doing this show virtually, is because we can't go anywhere. We can't go on vacation. And I know some of you watching me, just like me, are dying to go like down south. So last summer, because we couldn't go anywhere, my wife convinced me to go camping. Now, like, I love the outdoors. It's just at the end of the day, like most ethnic people, I want a mattress, air conditioning, and a shower. But because we couldn't go anywhere, I'm like, I'll give it a try. And I think part of this is a festival, a cultural festival. Part of this should be educational. And I want to share some lessons I've learned about going camping. So if perchance you are forced by a relationship or a gunpoint to go camping, let me give you this advice. First of all, to go camping, it has been my experience that you need 2 people to come with you, essentially. You need a Canadian to make sure everything goes right, and you need an ethnic person to eat in case things go wrong. Allow me to elaborate, right? When we go camping, and by a Canadian, I mean a real Canadian, like not an ethnic person. I don't like somebody whose last name is Thibodeau or Tremblay or Thompson, like somebody whose family has a family tree here, not ethnic people. We have like a branch at best, right? When we go camping, I made sure we went with my friend Eric Dubois. Huh? Eric of the Woods. What could go wrong? I mean, his last name means safety. And by an ethnic person, I don't mean like Italians, Jews, Indians, Chinese, Latin Americans, Africans, people from the Caribbean, people from like Japan. None of these, don't go, we all know we could die in the woods. And the worst person to go camping with is Irish people. Because ethnic people, we know we might die in the woods. Irish people are not afraid of anything. They will go camping with a Frisbee and a 2-4 of beer and like, let's go. So you can't go with these people. So when we go camping, and we brought my friend Tommy Two Tires. Now, we refer to Tommy as Tommy Two Tires, not because he works in the automotive industry, but because Tommy has 2 layers of potentially life-saving sustenance should things go wrong. And when we go camping, my buddies and I, we go deep in the woods. We're hiking, and Tommy starts to sweat. He sweats profusely. He sweats beaucoup. And, but I'm like, that's okay, Tommy, because all the sweating, that marinates the meat. Huh? I'm like, you go, Tommy, you go. If ever I need to eat you, I'm going to marinate you with some Prosecco I brought in my knapsack and some wild blueberries I picked from the trail. So that's it. You need to go with an ethnic person to eat in case things go wrong. And as I mentioned, a real Canadian. So when we go with my friend Eric Dubois, Eric has all the survival stuff to keep us alive. Like we go so far into the woods that our cell phones don't work. But that's not a problem. It's not a problem because Eric, he has walkie-talkies with a compass on it. It tells you due north. And I'm like, Eric, qu'est-ce qu'on fait avec ça? He's like, hey, Franco, if ever we get lost, we're going to find our way back by following due north. Due north. What the heck is due north going to do for me? I am not looking for Santa's village. How is due north going to help me? I need to get back to Lacordaire and Jarry. I'm not, that due north's not going to help me. And Rick has all the gear. Like for breakfast, he has a skillet to make breakfast, and the skillet has a handle, and the handle unscrews, and it's a flashlight. How cool is that? I'm like, Eric, how much does that cost? Combien ça coûte? He's like, Franco, c'est à peu près 100 piastres. About $100 for the skillet with the flashlight. And I realized $100 is how much night at the motel would cost me, and I would never need any of that shit. Never, never. Can I say that? Is that a bad word? Can I say that? And I realized it's cultural. All ethnic people, specifically, we don't like to do outdoorsy stuff, right? Because our parents or grandparents or great-grandparents, they left their old country where they were forced to do outdoorsy stuff, so we would never have to do outdoorsy stuff again. And that's all ethnic people, but Italians specifically. Italians were not comfortable in the woods. You're not going to be in the woods one day hiking and come across 4 or 5 Italians hiking in the woods, trekking on a mountain trail. You won't, I promise you. And if perchance you come across 4 or 5 Italian guys walking in the woods, at least one of them is never coming back. Usually the guy with the shovel, because not only are we going to kill him, we're going to make him dig his own grave. All right, maybe it's a little dark for a cultural festival. Now, as I mentioned, none of us could go on vacation, and it sucks for everybody, but it really sucks for me, right? It's Franco, you're not doing jokes, it's a pity party. Because my wife and I, we have a house in Miami, and we haven't been able to go for 15 months, but the bank keeps insisting that we still pay this mortgage on the house, which kind of sucks, you know? But you know, even though we've had a house in Miami, because before this pandemic, I used to spend about a third of the year traveling or living in the United States. And even though we've had a house for about 10 years, I knew that I would never really enjoy living in the United States. And it happened from the moment we were buying our home. Now, buying a home is a very nerve-wracking thing. It's probably the biggest investment most of us will ever make in our lives. But buying a second home in a second country, thousands of kilometers away, is even more nerve-wracking. So one day I'm home in Montreal as we're in the process of purchasing this home, and my wife's cell phone rings, and it says area code 305, which is the area code of Miami. So I'm like, oh, could be about the house. Let me pick it up. And I pick it up, and the gentleman on the other end says, Vicky, and I'm like, yes, it's my wife's name. He's like, I'm calling from Miami. I'm like, yes. He's like, I'm calling about the house. I'm like, yes. He's like, I'm the interior decorator. I want to discuss color palettes for the walls. I'm like, oh, you know what? Sorry, you're going to have to call back. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm sorry, I thought it was an important call. And I know that wasn't nice. It was very un-Canadian of me, but I was nervous. And I'm like, and he's like, but I asked you if you were Vicky. I'm like, I know, I apologize. And he's like, but you said you were Vicky. I'm like, I know, sir, it's my fault. But sir, not for anything, but Vicky is a girl's name. I'm obviously a guy. And he says to me, sir, very American, he's like, sir, I'm not familiar with your customs up there in Canada. For all I know, for you people, and whenever someone says for you people, you know odds are they never graduated high school. So he goes, for all I know, for you people up there in Canada, Vicky could be a guy's name. I'm like, well, it's not. I apologize, call back. He's like, well, I have no choice. I'm going to have to call back, but I'm going to tell your wife that I spoke to you. What's your name, sir? I'm like, oh, my name? Chantal. 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 I'm going to wait. This is where people would laugh. And I know this is very un-Canadian, but, you know, I'm ethnic. We could be a little bit cocky. We Canadians are better than Americans. There's so many things we as examples. We're kinder, we're gentler, it's a safer place. We believe in science. But I'm going to give, because hopefully you're watching this and enjoying a beverage of some sort, I'll give you an example. Because I spend a third of the year, I used to spend a third of the year there, beer. In Canada, beer begins at 5% alcohol content. Molson Cool Shots is 6% alcohol content. Labatt Dry Ice, 7% alcohol content. I have done my research for this joke. In the United States of America, where I have a home and I used to spend a third of the year, beer begins at 2% alcohol content. 2%. In Canada, 2% is milk. Huh? But you know what? We don't have a perfect country ourselves either. We don't have a perfect province. We don't have a perfect city. If any of you have tried driving in this city, you know what I'm talking about. And one of the reasons that's not perfect in this city is because when you go to a grocery store, we no longer get plastic bags. Why? Why? You know why? Because people, not ethnic people, were using bags for a single use. Huh? I would like to meet these caviar-eating, champagne-swilling, yacht-driving assholes that will use a grocery bag for one single use. Who are they? Like ethnic people, we invented the 3 R's: reduce, recycle, reuse. We reuse everything. I challenge you, any Italian, go into any Italian refrigerator anywhere in the world and try to find a margarine container that actually contains margarine. You will not. You will not. And the thing is, whenever I go to the grocery store, I call it the law of diminishing returns, right? You get out of your car and you start to walk, and you're like, I forgot the bags. And the further you walk from your car, the less likely you are to go back. You're like, I forgot the bags. I should go back and get bags. I'll just pay the 10 cents, right? We all do that. And the thing is, as I mentioned, there was nothing we ever used one time. I will explain to you, in my household, my ethnic immigrant household, growing up when I was a child, the life of a broom. My dad or my mom would buy a broom when it was on sale. We never pay retail for anything. And he would bring it home, or she would bring it home, but let's say for sake of argument, it would be my dad. He would bring it home, and they would use it, my immigrant parents, in the upstairs kitchen where we never lived, when the broom was brand new. Eventually, as the broom got a little older, it would go downstairs in the basement where we actually were domiciled. After a few years, the broom would make its way out to the gallery. It wasn't a deck. It wasn't a patio. It wasn't a terrace. It was a gallery. And it was made out of cement. Made out of cement that my uncle got while they were building the Olympic Stadium. But that's neither here nor there. And then as the broom got older, it would make its way to the yard, the garden. And my dad would use it like to sweep up the lawnmower and stuff like that. And this would like really damage the broom. And at the end, there'd be just a few bristles on this beautiful broom. And he would turn it over, screw off the broom part that had just a few bristles, turn it around, and it would go in the garden, and we tie tomato plants. One broom, 7 uses. Give us bags. Ethnic people will use them more than once. We never single-use anything. Just trust me. If I could leave you with one thing here, it would be, we love the environment. Give us plastic bags. I promise we'll recycle them. Now, during this pandemic, it was very, very difficult, much like this show where there's nobody here except the wonderful technical staff who should give themselves a big round of applause. All right. But I was wondering, many of us performers were like, maybe it'll never come back and we'll never be able to perform. So I started thinking of possible alternative jobs I could do in case I could never do comedy again. Now, I will caution you, some of these jobs, ils vont pas être très populaires. That's all I'm going to say. But it was desperate times call for desperate measures. One of the jobs was inspired by a personal experience. We recently lost a family pet. I have 3 sons. My little 7-year-old boy cried for a week. I knew this pet was going to die, but we had to do everything we could do because we had an emotional attachment. We loved this pet, and my 7-year-old expected it, or he would hate daddy for the rest of his life. So I was thinking maybe I could be a puppy assassin. Okay, bear with me. And we don't actually kill puppies. It's just for marketing, the puppy assassin thing. If you have a pet that's sick, like a dog, that's like 16 years old, its liver doesn't function anymore, it could only walk on 3 legs, it has no more sense of smell, and you know it will cost thousands of dollars to keep this dog alive, but because you have an emotional attachment and because your children expect it, you will spend these thousands or hundreds of dollars. But if you pay me like $150, I'll come to your house. I have no emotional attachment to this dog. I'll kill it for you. That's it. You're saving hundreds or thousands of dollars. By the way, I'll kill cats for free, just so you know, in case you're interested. You can find me on Instagram, funny Franco Taddeo. The other job I was thinking about, and I'm not saying they're popular, is I like to call this one the mother-in-law corrector. Allow me to explain. We all have that mother-in-law, whether it's a husband, a wife, or a dual partnership, whatever. We all have that mother-in-law that is, what's the right term? Effing annoying, but you can't say anything because your spouse will get upset. You might have a fight, might even lead to a divorce. But for $150, I'll come to your family gathering, and if she gets out of line, I'll scaff her for you. Now, scaff her just emotionally and verbally, not physically. In no way will we condone physical violence, but I'll do that for you. It'll save your marriage, and you'll get a little sweet revenge. And the last job that I was thinking, if comedy never came back, is a fake home invasion. Huh? For $150, I'll come to your house and I will steal every knick-knack and shitty painting and drawing your kids ever brought home from school or daycare. Huh? And for $25 extra, I'll steal any shitty wedding gift you ever got. When your brother-in-law comes over and he's like, hey, Franco, where's that painting of the clowns playing cards? I'm like, crime. It's a terrible thing. So these, if it never comes back, I think these are 3 jobs that I will propose to make a living. But hopefully, next year, we'll be back. Now, I think we're okay with time. I know the technicians have been wonderful, but they've been recording all day, and I'm the last one. And I know they're thinking, they saved the best for last. None of them are actually thinking that. But I'm lucky enough, it seems to be coming back, you know, thanks to science, thanks to vaccine, thanks to, like, Canadians. I'm blessed to be able to do this for a living. But growing up as a child of immigrants, I never thought I could do this for a living. And we had no frame of reference of a stand-up comic. Like, I remember being in high school one day, and like, it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I just, like, fallen asleep, and I woke up, and the TV was still on, and there was this comic, and he did this joke. It was like, women are looking for Mr. Right, and men are looking for Mrs. Right now. And people laughed. And I'm like, you could do that? I'm like, why the hell am I learning algebra? I could do this. Because growing up, I never thought I could be a stand-up comic. Growing up in the East End of Montreal, in a very, very Italian neighborhood, maybe you thought you could be like a rock star. But not just any rock star. Like, growing up, I wanted to be John Bon Jovi. Huh? Like, that's who I wanted to be, like, my whole adolescence. And then John Bon Jovi did something, and I'm like, bro, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be you anymore. And through the magic of virtual comedy, I want to share with you what John Bon Jovi did. At this point, maybe in the background, you'll hear the song. So John Bon Jovi wrote this song called Bed of Roses. For those of you that don't know the song, I won't destroy it by singing it, but it goes like, I want to lay you down on a bed of roses. Tonight I sleep on a bed. It's bed of nails. That's why I'm not a singer. So that's the song. So I don't know if any of you know the backstory to that song. If you don't, some of you that know are probably shouting at your screen. They're like, when is this guy going to end? No, you're shouting what it is. But for those of you that do not know, I will tell you. Bed of Roses is a song that John Bon Jovi cheated on his wife on tour. And in order to apologize to her, he wrote a song detailing everything that happened on the night he cheated on his wife. I know, crazy, huh? And that offends, when he did that, I'm like, bro, I don't want to be you anymore. Because that offends me on 3 levels that I want to share with you. First of all, it offends me as a man. Every man knows that you should not cheat on your partner. You should not betray the sacred trust, the sacrament of matrimony by giving into your inner animal urges and betraying that trust by cheating on your partner. And if, perchance, you cheat on your partner, it is incumbent upon you to shut the hell up about it and spend the rest of your miserable life making it up to your partner. So it offends me as a man. Secondly, it offends me as a Canadian because only Americans feel the need to sin then publicly repent. They go on Oprah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it. They cry. It's bullshit. That stuff doesn't work. And I'm going to show it to you because together we're going to deconstruct that song and show what nonsense it is, all right? The first line in Bed of Roses is, here she comes, the blonde bimbo. What is he doing? Everyone watching that's been in a relationship knows what's happening. He's setting the table. He's like, darling, I cheated on you, but she was a bimbo. What you and I have is spiritual, intellectual, emotional. That was just physical. That shit doesn't work. My wife tells me all the time. She's like, if you cheat on me, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to take the kids, and I'm going to tell your mom, which is the worst, which is the worst. I mean, all three are bad, but the beating you're going to get from your mom is the worst, right? Further along in the song, he says, and it's unbelievable. You can Google. Some of you can, like, open two windows, watch me, Google the lyrics to that song. He says, tonight, I won't be alone, but that doesn't mean I'm not lonely. This guy has been a rock star for too long. That's not how you apologize to your partner for cheating on them. And besides, it doesn't work. Whenever I used to go on tour, my wife, she warns me. She's like, make sure you honor our vow. You do not disrespect our marriage. I'm like, honey, I would never cheat on you. Never. Honestly, my heart belongs to you. My heart is yours. My heart forever yours. My penis, everybody. But my heart, yours. And at the end of the song, he does what every person in a relationship that loses an argument does. He starts to panic, and he utters nonsense. The last lines of the the last verse of the song is, I have nothing to prove to you that I wouldn't die to get back. Nothing to prove to you, die to... What? That doesn't even mean anything. What are you doing? We know what he's doing. He's panicking because he knows he's losing this argument. And lastly, it offends me as a person of Italian descent. It offends me as a man in a relationship, as a Canadian, and it offends me as a person of Italian descent. Because every Italian knows the law of omerta, right? Even if you did something or you know something, you don't say it. Even if you know it, you don't say it. Traditionally, this is why Italians have not done well in school. We're the only culture where you get killed for knowing too much. Right? Like I remember being like in grade 2, coming home, I had straight A's on my report card. Straight A's, beaming with pride. Orgueil, straight A's. My dad would look at my report card, he's like, hey, Franco, why don't you get a few C's not to arouse any suspicion? And this stayed with me. It impacted on me. I'm like, you know what? Maybe he's right. I will be more careful. So like in grade 3, I'm in class, and the teacher's like, Franco, stop fooling around, Franco. Franco, were you even listening, Franco? Franco, please pay attention. Were you listening, Franco? Franco, who discovered America? I'm like, Miss, you're asking me? Yes, Franco. Who did it, Franco? Who did it? Who discovered America? Who did it? Miss, me, I didn't see anything, eh? I wasn't even there. Won't you ask Joey, little Irish kid, he'll rat out his whole family. It stays with us. And I know you're thinking, yeah, Franco, our generation, adults know the law of omerta, but not kids. As I mentioned, I have 3 sons. My middle son, we live right across from a park, and a couple of years ago, he's playing with his best friend, Pasqualino. And my middle son comes in, and he's sad, and I'm like, Luca, what's wrong? He's like, Daddy, Pasqualino's family bought a house in Blainville. They're moving, and I'm never going to see my best friend again. I'm like, Luca, you and Pasqualino have this special bond. It's rare. Even when he's gone, you guys will still keep in touch. He's like, you think so, Daddy? I'm like, absolutely. Look, I know he's never going to see this kid again, right? But I got to do my job as a parent. I got to assuage his doubts and try to instill some happiness. And my son smiled, and he left and went back out and played with Pasqualino with happiness. And I was proud of what I did. Just less than 5 minutes later, Pasqualino comes in and he's like, Franco, I'm thirsty. May I have something to drink? I'm like, Pasqualino, our house is your house. Go in the fridge. Take whatever you want. So Pasqualino is, actually, you know what? I'm actually going to move this in back. Pasqualino, 7 years old, is rooting through my fridge. And I figure I'm going to make conversation. I'm like, hey, Pasqualino, I heard you guys are moving. Pasqualino stops rooting through my fridge, looks up at me and goes, why? What did you hear? He wants to know what I know and from who before he tells me anything more than I need to know. Omerta, 7-year-old, he gets it. All right, you guys have been a wonderful, wonderful audience. As I mentioned, it's a cultural festival. There are artists. There are all sorts of artists. And I like to lead, and it's a cultural festival open tout le monde. You don't have to be Italian to come to this festival. It helps, like most things in life, but I want to leave any non-Italians viewing with some, maybe not advice, but educational. Italians, we are very proud people, with reason, right? We make the fastest cars, the nicest suits. In my personal opinion, we have the most beautiful women, bar none, the best food on the planet, right? And now, just to add the cerise sur le Sunday, we won the Euro too. We're an amazing people. But there is a certain thing that we're uptight or insecure about, is the perception that all of us are mobsters. And it is something that affects us. And I know, like, oftentimes when I'm at home in Montreal and I'll be listening to the radio in the morning and there'll be a newscast and they're like, last night there was a gangland shooting, or last night police say there was a settling of accounts. And we all do the same thing, Italians, because we're like, please, please don't let it be an Italian. Please let it be like a Hell's Angels or a Greek person that has lost their way. Please don't let it be an Italian. Then they say the name and you're like, damn it, it's an Italian. And then our next reaction is, do I know him? Do I know him? Hey, you know, I'll call my sister. I'm like, Kathy, you know the guy they mentioned on the radio? Was that the guy in high school that was going out with our friend Angela? And she's like, but he just, and she hangs up on me, right? So because of this, I want to give any non-Italian some advice on how do you know if someone is connected or not, if you're in a social setting and it happens. And so through the magic of drama, I will show you how you know. For example, you and I, we're in a club, and we're minding our own business, we're having a drink, and this loud, obnoxious guy bangs into us, and he spills his drink on us, and we turn around as anyone would do, right? Just to see what happens. And the guy looks at us and he's like, hey, you better turn your faces around right now, okay? It was an accident. And besides, you don't know who I am. You don't want to mess with me. You don't know who I know. Now, to be clear, this individual knows no one. And anybody that he mentions during this altercation will be less than pleased that his name was proffered during this incident. Now, conversely, if you and I are in the bar and we're being the loud, obnoxious, annoying people, and there's a guy quietly seated at the bar with like a $4,000, maybe $5,000 suit, sipping on a drink, and we, being jerks, drop our drink all over him, and we're like, dude, relax, me and my buddy, we're just having a good time. And he's like, gentlemen, no, please, it was my fault that I was in the way of your drink, that you spilled all over me and my quite expensive suit. Please sit down and allow me to replace a drink for myself and for you. It was my fault. Just to be clear, my friends, you and I are dead. Dead. The more polite he is, the faster we will die. Speaking of dying, I hope none of you did and that you enjoyed what is the festival, what comes after me. And you can follow me on Instagram, you can follow me on Facebook, and you can follow me on the street when this is all over. I'm Franco Taddeo, and Forza Azzurri. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Franco. Nous passons maintenant à un autre artiste, Charles V. Rocks Vaccaro and Friends. Il a été un des pionniers du groupe Lipstick. Il a été géré par Whitney Houston. Sans plus tarder, sans ajouter un mot de plus, à vous, on continue Showtime.